This is a JavaScript course for beginners. We'll focus on skills you'll need to build portfolio projects, prepare for technical interviews, and for real developer work. My goal is to save you time and make learning JavaScript clear, easy, and enjoyable. We'll do that by building real features from popular websites. Things like dark light theme switchers on YouTube, upvote counter on Reddit, and sign up form validation on Amazon. We will start with JavaScript basics like variables and loops. Then we'll move to intermediate things like working with the DOM and events. And finally, we will cover advanced topics like promises, async programming, and working with APIs. To take this course, you don't need any prior JavaScript or programming experience, but I assume that you already know the basics of HTML and CSS. If you want to learn HTML and CSS, I have a full course just like this one that you can find in the video description. From my experience, you don't need to be a math genius to be able to code well, and you're not too old or too young to learn programming. I've seen people of all ages become great developers. So, if you have the desire to learn, that's the most important part. With that said, let's get started. You can adjust the speed of the video here if you want to go faster or slower. I'm going to be doing this course on a Mac, but the steps are the same if you're using Windows. We will start with the easiest JavaScript concepts first and then move our way up to more advanced concepts gradually. So, what is JavaScript? JavaScript is one of the tools we use to build websites. Sites like YouTube or Google or ChatGPT. There are three main tools for making websites: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Each one does something different. HTML and CSS create the content and make it look good. And JavaScript makes things actually work. Let's take, for example, this search bar on YouTube. HTML creates it and CSS makes it look good. But without JavaScript, it is just decoration. We can't actually search anything. But if I turn JavaScript on, now I can actually use the search. JavaScript brings websites to life. It's what makes buttons clickable and forms submittable and pages interactive. This course focuses on JavaScript. If you want to learn HTML and CSS, I have another course, and I'll leave the link in the description. To get started with JavaScript, we'll need a web browser. A web browser lets us see the websites we will build. Google Chrome is what most developers use nowadays. I recommend it too. If you don't have Google Chrome, then open your default browser. For Windows, it's Microsoft Edge, and for Mac, it is Safari. Then go to google.com, search for Google Chrome, and click the first result and download it. Then open the downloaded file and follow the instructions to install it. Once Chrome is installed, we are ready to start. We will start by learning what JavaScript is and how can we use it. JavaScript is a way to give instructions to a computer, and then the computer follows those instructions. For example, if you tell your friend, if you're going to the kitchen, please grab me a cup of coffee. That's an instruction, and your friend follows it. JavaScript works the same way. But instead of talking to your friend, you are talking to your computer. And what kind of instructions are we talking about? Let's find out and write our first JavaScript instruction. For that, let's open Google Chrome. Then click at the top, type in google.com and press enter. Now that we opened the Google web page, let's learn how to write our first JavaScript instruction. For that, we're going to find a blank area on this web page, then right-click and click Inspect. It will open this panel. And if your panel appears somewhere else, then find and click these three dots, and then click this icon to position it at the bottom. Then click the Console tab. Lastly, if you have any messages here, then click this icon to clear the console. So, in the console, we can give JavaScript instructions to our computer. Let's learn our first JavaScript instruction that displays a pop-up with text. For that, in the console, click here, then type alert, open parenthesis, single quote, then the text "it works." Then single quote, close parenthesis, and semicolon. And let me increase the font size for you to see it better. Make sure that you type this exactly as you see it here, otherwise it might not work. This is a JavaScript instruction to display a pop-up with the text "it works." To ask the computer to do this instruction, we can press enter. And as you can see, it works. The computer followed our instruction and displayed a pop-up with our text. Let's press OK and write another instruction to our computer. Let's display a pop-up again, but this time with a different text. For that, we will click here and type alert again, open parenthesis, single quote, and our text will be "well done." Then single quote, close parenthesis, and a semicolon. If we press enter, the computer displays a pop-up, but this time with the text "well done." Make sure that you write this exactly as I have it here, otherwise it might not work. And you might get something like this. And in this case, just check what you typed and make sure that you have all your characters like I have it here. Okay, I find that the best way of learning JavaScript is by doing. So I'm going to ask you to pause this video and repeat the steps that we've done so far. Okay, you gave your first instructions to a computer. Great job. And now let's learn our first programming terms. These instructions are called JavaScript code. And when we press enter, it is called running or executing the code. So this is JavaScript code, and we wrote it using the JavaScript programming language. A programming language is simply a way to talk to a computer. And just like there are a lot of languages people use to talk to each other, like English or French, there are a lot of programming languages people created to talk to computers. And JavaScript is the most popular programming language nowadays. Other popular ones are Python, C++, and Java. The good news is that once you learn one programming language, learning others becomes way easier. We can write and run JavaScript code in this console. What's cool about the console is that we can open it on any website we want. Like we opened it on Google, or we can open it on YouTube, Amazon, or our own website. And now that we understand the basic terminology, let's write some JavaScript code that will display our name in the pop-up. And for that, let's click here and type alert again. Then open parenthesis, single quote. I'll write the text hello space Dima, and you will put your name here instead. And then we'll write single quote, close parenthesis, and a semicolon. And now before we press enter to run this code, I want to share with you a cool trick that I use to learn programming fast. And it is experimenting. What I love about programming is that we can safely experiment with our code, break things, and then easily undo all the errors we've done, and nobody will punish us. And because of this, I would encourage you to experiment with your code as much as possible. And especially in the beginning, the more you break your code, the better. So, for example, earlier I said that we need to write this code exactly as it is here for it to work. But let's experiment. Let's, for example, remove this single quote and run the code to see what happens. To run the code, I'll press enter. And now, instead of displaying a pop-up here, the computer have displayed this error message. Okay, now let's experiment more and put the single quote back. So I'll type alert, open parenthesis, single quote, hello, Dima, then single quote again, close parenthesis, and a semicolon. I'll press enter to run the code, and this time the pop-up has been displayed and there is no error message here. So by experimenting with our code, we'll learn that if we forget to type the single quote here, we will get an error message and our code will not work. We also learned in practice how this looks and what happens. This is what I call learning by experimenting. To learn by experiment, we just take some code, then change it in a way we want. Maybe we're curious if we remove this symbol or that symbol or add this thing or that thing. Then we run the code and just see what happens. I encourage you to experiment with all the code, with all the things that you will see in this course. And you don't need to overthink it. Just change anything about the code that you're curious about, run the code and see what happens. If you apply this experimenting trick, it can make learning how to code for you so much enjoyable and fast, and it just feels empowering. And don't worry if you feel like you don't quite get it how to experiment. We will do it a lot throughout the course. Okay, now let's learn about what this error is and why it happened. First, notice that it says here that it's a syntax error. So, what is this syntax? Syntax in programming is just like grammar in English. In English, we have rules so that we understand what people say. These rules make sure that you understand me and other people understand what you say. Those rules are called grammar. And in programming, we have rules as well about how to write our code so that computers can understand us. And those rules are called syntax. The syntax tells us where to put these weird-looking symbols like parentheses or single quotes for computers to understand what we want them to do. And so, according to one of those rules, JavaScript expects us to start our text with a single quote and then end our text with a single quote as well, just like we did it here. Without a single quote at the end of our text, JavaScript just doesn't understand where our text ends. So it gives us a syntax error, which just means that we're breaking some rules of JavaScript code. JavaScript has many syntax rules that describe how to write JavaScript code in the right way. Don't worry, you don't need to memorize them. We will learn them by writing code and experimenting. So I have another task for you. Pause this video and repeat what we've done so far. First, write JavaScript code to display your name in a pop-up, just like we did a moment ago. Then, after you display a pop-up with your name, your goal will be to write the same JavaScript code that displays your name. Then, remove the open parenthesis to break it. Then, press enter to get an error. And yes, for this second task, this means that if you break your code, it is a good thing. Great. Now that we learn what code and syntax means in programming, let's see what else JavaScript can do. We can do math with JavaScript. So inside the console, let's click here and then we'll type 2 plus 2. And so this JavaScript code tells the computer to add these numbers. And if we press enter, the computer runs this code, adds these two numbers, and shows the result here. Now let's try to subtract. So we'll write 7, then space, minus, space 2. I'm sorry, 2. These spaces are not required by the syntax, just as the spaces here with addition. They just make our code to look a little bit nicer. Press enter to run the code and it gives us 5, which is correct. Now let's try to multiply two numbers. We'll write 2, space, asterisk, and then 3. So we use the asterisk symbol to multiply numbers, enter to run the code, and 6 is the correct result. Lastly, let's try to divide. We'll divide 8 by 2. We use the / to divide. If we run the code, it is 4. Great. And so this is how we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide numbers in JavaScript. What's cool here is this is actually almost all the math you'll use as a programmer. So, good news, you don't need to be a math genius to become a JavaScript developer. Great. Now I've got another task for you. Pause this video and calculate the following things in the console. And now let's check out another example of what JavaScript can do. In our console, let's write the following. Document.body.style.background space equals space, single quote, then green, single quote, and semicolon. Make sure to write this exactly as I have it here, otherwise it won't work. Then let's press enter to run the code. Oh, and there is an error which says, okay, that I made a typo in the word document. I missed the character N. Let's fix it. I'll type document. This time make sure that the N is present. .body.style.background space equals space, green, single quote, and a semicolon. Then enter to run the code. There you go. So what this JavaScript code does is that it changes the CSS style of this web page. It sets the background color of the body element to green. And so here we're using JavaScript to actually modify the web page. This is one of the most powerful things that JavaScript can do. Don't worry, you don't need to understand how this works right now. We will learn it in detail throughout this course. And with this, I just wanted to give you a quick preview of what JavaScript can do. Let's try just one more example. We will go to our console, click here, and write document dot, and then body dot, then inner, lowercase, then HTML, all caps, then space equals space, and single quote, then JS is great. Single quote and a semicolon. Make sure that only the HTML is uppercase and the rest to the left is all lowercase. This is because in JavaScript, we need to make sure that the case of these words is correct. This behavior is called case sensitive. So again, make sure that you write it exactly as I have it here. What this code does is that it replaces all the content on the page with the text JS is great. I'll press enter to run the code. And as you can see, the computer replaced the initial content of this page with our text JS is great. This is how powerful JavaScript is. We can change almost anything on our page with JavaScript. And this is what JavaScript is about. We write instructions for the computer. We call these instructions code, and then we ask the computer to do our instructions, which is called executing or running the code. Okay, if you want, you can find the code for this lesson in the description. And if you decide to copy and paste the code in the console, you might get a warning from the console that you need to enable the pasting in the console. For that, you need to type allow pasting. And now I'll ask you to pause this video and code what we just did. Great. In the next lesson, we will learn how to create our own web page that runs JavaScript code.